Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! Amid the industrious symphony of machines and manpower at the construction site, the sun's rays bore down intensely like a spotlight on an unlikely protagonist. In that rugged, testosterone-laden landscape, she was an unexpected sight to behold. This woman, dressed in an impeccably tailored navy suit, her posture as structured as the architectural plans she held, halted at the comment that had sliced through the clamor. A blend of condescension and crassness, the words hung momentarily in the air, crystallizing the atmosphere around them. Indeed, a challenge awaits anyone who dares handle those blueprints, requiring skill and precision, she said, her voice cutting like a fine blade. But I assure you, sir, my head is more than capable. Henderson, I presume? Her voice carried across the site, commanding without raising its volume. A burly man in a dirt-smeared white t-shirt and worn jeans stepped forward, hard hat tipped back on his head, revealing sweat-dampened, dark blonde hair. His broad shoulders squared as he approached, a smirk playing across his lips.
Chase Henderson, ma'am. And you must be the new project manager everyone's been whispering about.
His eyes made an inappropriate journey from her face downward before returning to meet her gaze.
Ms. Reynolds. Victoria Reynolds.
She extended her hand, not in friendship but as a formal challenge. I'm not just the project manager. I own Pinnacle Construction, which means I'm your boss. The construction workers, who had been pretending not to eavesdrop, suddenly found reasons to be elsewhere. The atmosphere shifted palpably as Chase's cocky expression faltered momentarily. Well, didn't know I was addressing the big boss. He recovered quickly, taking her hand with unnecessary firmness.
Though I gotta say, construction's a man's world. Must be tough keeping up.
Ms. Reynolds withdrew her hand, brushing it discreetly against her suit as if removing something unpleasant. Mr. Henderson, you've been with Pinnacle for 3 years, according to your file. Your technical skills are impressive, but your personnel reports... She paused, her gaze cutting into him. Less so. I've received multiple complaints about your behavior toward female employees and clients. Chase shrugged. Unrepentant.
Just having some fun. Not my fault if some people can't take a joke.
Harassment isn't humor, Mr. Henderson. Ms. Reynolds' voice dropped several degrees. I've scheduled a meeting in my office tomorrow morning at 8 sharp. We'll be discussing your future with this company. Without waiting for a response, she turned on her heel and strode away, leaving Chase to stare after her, his usual bravado momentarily dampened. The following morning, Chase sauntered into the site office 15 minutes late, still wearing yesterday's white t-shirt and jeans, though he'd made the concession of washing his face and combing his blonde hair. The portable office was unexpectedly comfortable, with potted plants softening the industrial feel and large windows letting in natural light. Ms. Reynolds sat behind a polished desk, her expression neutral as she watched him enter. She wore a different suit today, charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes, yet carried the same air of absolute authority. You're late, Mr. Henderson. Chase dropped into the chair across from her desk, sprawling with deliberate casualness. Traffic was hell. The other workers managed to arrive on time. She opened a folder on her desk. I've reviewed your file thoroughly. Your workmanship is exceptional. Your attitude, however, is not. Look, if this is about yesterday, it's about the past 3 years. She interrupted smoothly. Your file contains 17 separate complaints from female colleagues and clients. Comments about their appearance, inappropriate jokes, undermining their professional input. Chase leaned forward, forearms on his knees.
With all due respect, Ms. Reynolds, this is construction. It's rough talk and thick skin. Always has been. And that mindset is precisely the problem.
She closed the file with a sharp snap. The industry is changing, Mr. Henderson. Pinnacle Construction is changing. We value diversity and respectful workplace culture.
So, what's this about? You firing me?
A hint of genuine concern flashed across his face.
I believe in rehabilitation over termination, when possible.
Ms. Reynolds' expression remained impassive.
I'm implementing a specialized sensitivity training program, just for you.
Chase's shoulders relaxed.
So I sit through some boring videos about workplace etiquette? I can do that.
No, Mr. Henderson. My approach is more experiential. She opened a drawer and removed a large shopping bag, placing it on the desk between them. Starting today, you'll be undergoing immersive empathy training. With suspicious eyes, Chase leaned forward to peek into the bag. His expression transformed from curiosity to disbelief as he glimpsed pink fabric.
What the hell is this? Language, Mr. Henderson.
Ms. Reynolds reached into the bag and methodically removed its contents. A fitted pink pencil skirt, a crisp white blouse with pearl buttons, nude pantyhose still in their packaging, and a pair of modest 3-inch black heels. Chase barked out a laugh, then stopped when Ms. Reynolds didn't join him.
You're not serious.
Entirely serious. Today, you'll experience what it's like to be on the receiving end of the kind of attention you so freely dispense. You'll spend the workday dressed in appropriate office attire, women's office attire. No way! Chase stood abruptly. This is insane. You can't make me wear women's clothes.
I can't force you, no.
But I can terminate your employment for creating a hostile work environment. She folded her hands on the desk. The choice is yours. 1 day of experiential training, or clean out your locker. Chase paced the small office, running a hand through his blonde hair. This is harassment! No, Mr. Henderson. This is consequence. Ms. Reynolds checked her watch. The bathroom is through that door. You have 15 minutes to change. The guys will never let me live this down. Your colleagues are at the North Site today. It's just office staff here, all of whom are aware of your sensitivity training. Now, 15 minutes. Muttering under his breath, Chase snatched the bag and stormed into the bathroom, slamming the door behind him. Inside, he dumped the contents onto the counter, staring at the feminine clothing with distaste. He picked up the pink pencil skirt, stretching the fabric between his hands.
This is ridiculous,
he muttered, but began removing his work boots all the same. 20 minutes later, the bathroom door cracked open. Chase stood awkwardly in the doorframe, a vision of discomfort. The pink pencil skirt hugged his hips uncomfortably tight, ending just below his knees. The white blouse strained slightly across his broad shoulders, and his feet were crammed into the black heels, making him wobble precariously.
I look like an idiot,
he growled, tugging at the skirt's hem. Ms. Reynolds assessed him with clinical detachment.
The skirt sits too low on your hips. Adjust it higher to your natural waist. This isn't my natural anything,
Chase grumbled, but followed her instruction, shifting the skirt upward. To his surprise, this improved both the fit and his ability to move.
Better. Now, walk across the room and back.
Chase took a tentative step, immediately wobbling on the unfamiliar heels. His second step was more stable, and by the fifth, he'd developed a cautious rhythm. Smaller steps, Ms. Reynolds advised, and pull your shoulders back. Posture is essential. For the next hour, Ms. Reynolds drilled Chase on proper movement in his new attire. How to sit without revealing too much leg, how to navigate in heels without stomping, how to carry files without hunching his shoulders.
"This is the most humiliating day of my life,"
Chase complained as he practiced lowering himself into a chair for the third time.
"Indeed. How interesting that you find women's clothing humiliating, yet you expect women to appreciate your comments about their appearance."
Chase opened his mouth to retort, then closed it again, momentarily stymied.
"Now,"
Ms. Reynolds continued, "you'll be handling reception duties today. Answer phones, greet visitors, and file these documents." She indicated a substantial stack of folders. "Remember, professional demeanor at all times." "You expect me to sit at the front desk, where delivery guys can see me?"
"Precisely. Experience the scrutiny women face daily. I'll be observing your interactions."
The morning crawled by in excruciating slowness. Chase answered calls with gritted teeth, filed papers with awkward movements, and endured several startled looks from delivery personnel. By lunchtime, his feet ached from the unaccustomed heels, and he'd developed a newfound appreciation for the pantyhose, which proved surprisingly supportive despite their fragility. "You may take your lunch break now," Ms. Reynolds announced, emerging from her office. "There's a cafe 2 blocks down." Chase stared at her in horror. "I'm not going outside dressed like this." "That's precisely what you'll do. Women don't get to avoid public spaces because of potential harassment." After further protest proved futile, Chase found himself navigating the sidewalk toward the cafe, acutely aware of every glance, whistle, and double-take. The comments from a group of construction workers across the street, ironically similar to ones he'd made himself, burned his ears and sent heat rushing to his face. Inside the cafe, he waited in line, studying the tile floor and praying for invisibility. When his turn came, the barista, a young woman with kind eyes, smiled at him without a trace of judgment.
"What can I get for you today?"
Something in her normal, respectful treatment broke through Chase's humiliation.
"Just a black coffee and whatever sandwich is fastest,"
he mumbled. "Coming right up," she said, then added quietly, "For what it's worth, that color looks nice with your complexion." Chase blinked in surprise, automatically smoothing a hand down the pink skirt.
Thanks."
Back at the office, he found Ms. Reynolds waiting with a critical eye.
"How was your excursion?"
"Awful," Chase admitted, setting down his coffee.
"Some guys across the street said, well, exactly the kind of stuff I've said."
He shook his head.
"But the barista was decent about it." "Interesting insight."
Ms. Reynolds nodded thoughtfully. "And how do your feet feel in those heels?" Chase grimaced, shifting his weight.
"Like they're being tortured. How do women wear these all day?"
"Many don't have a choice in professional settings."
"Resume your duties, Mr. Henderson. 4 more hours."
By day's end, Chase collapsed into his desk chair, exhaustion etched across his features. He reached down to unbuckle the heels, sighing with relief as his feet were freed.
"Before you change,"
Ms. Reynolds said, "I'd like your reflection on today's experience." Chase looked up, surprisingly thoughtful.
"It was educational. I never realized how much work goes into just existing as a woman in public. The clothes are restrictive, the shoes are painful, and the constant awareness of being watched is exhausting."
"And the fabrics? The fit of the clothing?" Chase paused, considering.
"Actually, once I got used to it,
The fabrics felt nice, softer than my usual clothes, and there's something about the structure of the skirt that's oddly satisfying. Ms. Reynolds raised an eyebrow, intrigued by this unexpected admission. Indeed. Well, Mr. Henderson, consider today part 1 of your sensitivity training. Report to my office tomorrow morning, same time. Wait, there's more? The rehabilitation process takes time. She handed him another shopping bag. Tomorrow's attire. Don't be late. The next morning, Chase arrived punctually, the shopping bag clutched in his hand. His expression was a mixture of resignation and something less identifiable. Good morning, Mr. Henderson. I see you've brought today's clothing. You may change now. In the bathroom, Chase unpacked the day's outfit. A knee-length navy blue dress with a modest neckline, a thin belt to cinch the waist, and the same heels from yesterday. As he slipped the dress over his head, he was surprised by the pleasurable sensation of the fabric sliding against his skin. Cool, smooth, and somehow comforting. When he emerged, Ms. Reynolds assessed him with a critical eye. Much better than yesterday. The blue complements your coloring. The dress is easier to move in than the skirt, Chase admitted, performing an experimental twirl that surprised them both. Ms. Reynolds smiled for the first time. Today, you'll be assisting in the design department. They're preparing presentations for clients, and you'll help organize their materials. The day passed more smoothly than expected. The design team, 3 women and 2 men, treated Chase with professional courtesy after an initial period of adjustment. By afternoon, he found himself engaged in their work, offering surprisingly insightful suggestions about how to present technical information to clients with limited construction knowledge. You have an unexpected talent for communication, Ms. Reynolds observed as they reviewed the day. When you're not undermining women with sexist remarks, that is. Chase looked down at the blue dress, smoothing a wrinkle. I'm starting to think I've been compensating for something all these years, acting tough because I thought that's what construction work required. An interesting self-analysis. Tomorrow, you'll work with the client relations team. Days turned into weeks. Each morning, Chase arrived to find a new outfit waiting. Dresses, skirts, blouses in various colors and styles. The heels became less torturous as his feet adapted. Ms. Reynolds introduced subtle makeup, teaching him the basics of foundation and mascara. 3 weeks in, Chase arrived early, already dressed in a flattering emerald wrap dress he'd selected himself, with light makeup applied with growing skill. You've taken initiative, Ms. Reynolds noted, pleasantly surprised. Chase smoothed his hands over the dress. I figured I should practice at home, and I realized the green would work well with my eyes and hair. Indeed it does. She studied him with newfound interest. You know, the sensitivity training was scheduled to end last week. Chase's expression fell. Oh, I've been learning so much about the business side of construction. Yes, you have. Which leads me to a proposition. Ms. Reynolds leaned forward. Your construction skills are valuable, but your emerging talents in communication and organization are equally so. Would you consider a permanent position as my administrative assistant? The role would require professional attire, of course. A curious mixture of emotions played across Chase's face. Relief, excitement, and something like recognition. You mean dressed like this? Every day? If that's comfortable for you. Chase touched the fabric of his dress, a small smile forming. It is. More comfortable than I've ever been, actually. Then there's one more thing to discuss. Ms. Reynolds opened her drawer and removed a small card.
This is the contact information for a therapist who specializes in gender identity. No pressure or assumptions. Just a resource, should you wish to explore why this experience has resonated so deeply. Chase accepted the card with trembling fingers. Thank you. I think I'd like that.
3 months later, the office celebrated a name day. Ophelia Henderson, resplendent in a floral dress with her growing blonde hair styled in soft waves, cut a small cake as colleagues applauded.
To new beginnings,
Ms. Reynolds toasted, genuine warmth in her expression. And to finding yourself in unexpected places, Ophelia added, her voice softer now, her posture graceful and natural. The former construction worker had undergone more than sensitivity training. She'd undergone a metamorphosis, shedding the artificial constraints of machismo to embrace her authentic self. The pink pencil skirt that had once seemed a punishment now hung in her closet as a cherished reminder of the day her true journey began. In the months that followed, Ophelia flourished as Ms. Reynolds' executive assistant. Her unique background in construction gave her invaluable insight when dealing with clients and contractors. Where Chase had been abrasive and dismissive, Ophelia was tactful and thorough, developing a reputation for solving problems before they arose. 6 months after her first day in the pink pencil skirt, Ophelia sat across from Ms. Reynolds for her formal performance review.
Your transformation extends far beyond appearance, Ms. Reynolds noted, reviewing Ophelia's impressive accomplishments.
You've revolutionized our client communication protocols and streamlined our project management systems. Ophelia smiled, smoothing the skirt of her lavender dress.
I understand both sides now, the technical aspects and the human elements. Being authentic has cleared my mind in ways I never imagined possible. The board has taken notice. Ms. Reynolds closed the file. They've approved my recommendation to create a new position, Director of Client Experience. The role is yours, if you want it.
Ophelia's eyes widened. That's incredible. Thank you.
Don't thank me. You've earned it through hard work and personal growth.
Ms. Reynolds hesitated, then continued more personally. When I implemented that first day of sensitivity training, I never anticipated this outcome. I merely hoped to curb inappropriate behavior. You gave me permission to discover myself, Ophelia replied softly, though I suspect you started noticing before I did. Perhaps. A small smile played at Ms. Reynolds' lips. There was a moment when you first touched the fabric of that pink skirt, when something changed in your expression. Not just resignation, but recognition. Ophelia nodded, remembering. It was like finding a missing puzzle piece. Everything suddenly fit. They sat in companionable silence before Ms. Reynolds spoke again.
The construction crew has a project inspection tomorrow. Are you comfortable joining me on site?
The question hung in the air, weighted with implication. Ophelia hadn't returned to the construction site since beginning her transition, avoiding potential confrontations with former colleagues. Yes, she decided firmly. It's time. The following morning, Ophelia dressed with particular care, selecting a professional burgundy dress with a structured blazer, complemented by modest heels and subtle makeup that highlighted her features without overwhelming them. Her growing blonde hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail, both practical and feminine. Ms. Reynolds met her at the office, approval in her gaze. Ready? As I'll ever be. The construction site buzzed with the familiar sounds of machinery and shouted instructions. As their car pulled up, Ophelia felt her heart rate accelerate, memories of her previous life washing over her. "Remember," Ms. Reynolds said quietly, "you belong here as much as anyone. More, in fact. You understand this world from perspectives few others possess." Ophelia nodded, drawing strength from the words, and stepped out of the car with her head held high. The site manager greeted them with professional courtesy, though his eyes widened slightly at Ophelia's appearance.
"Ms.
Reynolds, welcome. And this is Ophelia Henderson, our new Director of Client Experience," Ms. Reynolds introduced smoothly. Recognition dawned in the manager's eyes. "Henderson, not Chase Henderson?" "The same, though much improved," Ophelia replied with quiet confidence. "I'll be liaising between the construction teams and our clients to ensure smooth communication." The manager's surprise gave way to pragmatic acceptance. The construction industry valued results above all else. "Well, we could certainly use someone who speaks both languages. The client's been asking technical questions I can't translate into layman's terms." "That's precisely why we're here." Ophelia smiled, falling into step beside him. Throughout the inspection, former colleagues did double takes, whispered among themselves, and occasionally stared. Yet as Ophelia demonstrated her technical knowledge, explaining complex construction challenges to Ms. Reynolds while translating engineering specifications for the client, respect gradually replaced curiosity. By lunch break, she found herself surrounded by workers seeking her input on client concerns, her unique position bridging worlds that rarely communicated effectively. "You're a natural mediator," Ms. Reynolds observed as they prepared to leave. "How do you feel?" Ophelia gazed across the construction site where she'd once labored, seeing it with new eyes. "Like I've come full circle, but as my complete self." "The crew seems to have accepted you." "Results speak louder than appearance in this industry," Ophelia nodded. "Though I caught Mike from Electrical looking at my shoes rather enviously." Ms. Reynolds laughed, a rare sound. "Perhaps there's hope for sensitivity in the construction industry after all." Back at the office, Ophelia settled at her desk, reviewing client feedback with newfound insight. A small framed photo stood beside her computer, a picture from the company's recent charity gala, showing her in an elegant evening gown, smiling with genuine happiness. Beside it lay a business card. Ophelia Henderson, Director of Client Experience, Pinnacle Construction. The card represented more than a job title. It represented the journey from masks to authenticity, from conformity to self-discovery. Her office phone rang, interrupting her reflection. "Pinnacle Construction, Ophelia Henderson speaking." "Ms. Henderson, this is Thomas Warner from Urban Development Partners. We met at last month's industry conference." "Of course, Mr. Warner. How can I help you today?" "I was impressed by your presentation on inclusive construction practices. Our company is launching a major project next quarter, and we're looking for a contractor who understands both technical excellence and human-centered design." Ophelia smiled, reaching for her tablet to take notes. "I'd be delighted to discuss how Pinnacle might serve your needs. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting with our project team?" As she scheduled the appointment, Ophelia caught her reflection in the window, confident, professional, and completely herself. The pink pencil skirt that had once seemed a humiliation had become the first step on a path to authenticity. Later that evening, as Ophelia prepared to leave, Ms. Reynolds appeared in her doorway. "I've been reflecting on our journey these past 6 months," she said. "When you first stood in my office in that ill-fitting skirt, did you have any inkling where it would lead?" Ophelia shook her head, gathering her belongings. "Not consciously, but looking back, there was always something missing, something that didn't quite fit in the life I'd constructed. And now? Now everything fits. Ophelia smoothed her dress, a gesture that had become natural and comforting. Though I still haven't mastered running in heels. Ms. Reynolds chuckled. Few have. The client meeting went well today? Very. Urban Development Partners is interested in our proposal for their new mixed-use complex. I've scheduled a presentation for next week.
Excellent work.
Ms. Reynolds paused. There's a women's leadership conference in Chicago next month. As our new director, your perspective would be valuable. Are you interested? The invitation represented another milestone, professional recognition of her identity and expertise. I'd be honored. Good. We'll fly out together. Ms. Reynolds hesitated, then added more personally, I'm proud of you, Ophelia. Not many people have the courage to embrace such profound change. I had an excellent guide, Ophelia replied softly. What began as punishment became the greatest gift anyone's ever given me, permission to be myself. They shared a moment of understanding before Ms. Reynolds nodded briskly, returning to her customary professional demeanor. 8 o'clock meeting tomorrow. The Johnson Project needs your input. I'll be prepared. After Ms. Reynolds departed, Ophelia lingered, gazing around her office, the space that represented her new life. On an impulse, she opened her bottom drawer, removing a carefully folded garment, the pink pencil skirt from that first day. She held it against herself, remembering the discomfort, the humiliation, and then the subtle, bewildering realization that had followed. What had begun as sensitivity training had revealed a truth she'd hidden even from herself. Carefully refolding the skirt, she placed it back in the drawer, not as a reminder of shame, but as a testament to transformation. Chase Henderson, with his forced bravado and casual cruelty, had been a costume she'd worn to fit expectations. Ophelia was who she had always been beneath the disguise. She switched off her office light and stepped into the evening, her heels clicking confidently against the tile. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to bridge worlds as someone who had inhabited both. But tonight, she walked home simply as Ophelia, authentic, complete, and finally at peace in her own skin.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!